The Indian Air Force has scrambled to hit out at an upcoming film, AK versus AK, where film star Anil Kapoor is wearing an Air Force uniform, a uniform of an Air Commodore. But the Air Force says this is not only wrong donning of the uniform, but the conduct of the actor is extremely un-officer-like. It shows the Indian Air Force in poor light. The Air Force, of course, is also asking a question. Is there a pattern to this? The manner in which Bollywood depicted the Gunjan Saxena movie, and now here is Bollywood out to malign the Indian Air Force. IAF wants these scenes to be deleted.
Air Force officer is donning half of the Air Force officer uniform and been seen using indecent, inappropriate language in public. This sends a very wrong message to the society as such, and this must be stopped.
The freedom of expression allowed by our constitution comes with a sense of responsibility. You cannot misuse it and show unrealistic scenes which hurt the morale and motivation of the defense forces. They also mislead the future generations.
Netflix tweeted that it was never their intention to disrespect the armed forces, and even Anil Kapoor tweeted his apology and clarification for the same.
My character in the film is in uniform because he's an actor playing the role of an officer. When he finds out that his daughter has been kidnapped, the anger and rage he experiences and portrays is that of an emotionally distraught father. It was only in the interest of remaining true to the story that my character is still wearing the uniform on his quest to find his missing daughter. It was never my intent or the intent of the filmmakers to disrespect the Indian Air Force. I've always had the utmost respect and gratitude for the selfless service of all our defense personnel. And so, I truly apologize for unintentionally hurting anyone's sentiments.
Can the Indian Air Force then say that you can't insult us and add a disclaimer? You can't do this. Or is the Air Force being too touchy? Joining me on the broadcast is Air Marshal Padamjeet Singh Ahluwalia. He's a Kargil war hero, former Air Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Western Air Command. Joining me is Harshita Kashyap, actor. Nasir Abdullah is an actor, will give us the Bollywood perspective. But I first want to cut across to India Today's Shiv Arur for more on this. Shiv, is there merit? Is there reason for the Air Force to be upset? You've been speaking to senior officers. Why are they up in arms?
You know, Gaurav, creative expression is something that should be protected strongly. I always believe that. But, you know, in conversations with the Air Force, the one thing I can tell you very clearly is, you know, they've had a bit of a rough year as far as dealing with, you know, depictions in Bollywood is concerned. The story that just went on air, you know, said it all. You and I both reported on, you know, the Gunjan Saxena episode as well. So I think it's quite understandable. In many ways, people might have, you know, been surprised at the Air Force getting into this, you know, and wondering whether they should not be getting too touchy about what is ultimately creative expression. But it is, if you put this into context and if you look at just the last few months this year, the Air Force's sensitivity is totally understandable. Speaking to very senior officers in the Air Force, the view is that either there is a you know, either within Bollywood or with these shows, either it is a lack of you know, respect for the institution, so much so that you don't care about the facts, or you simply don't care enough, you know, to depict them in a way that is respectful. Either way, the Air Force feels that, you know, they are not respected.
Nasir Abdullah,
and
is
the
it,
people
yes, Bollywood doesn't care. Yeah. We love our armed forces. Bollywood wouldn't care less.
No, it's not true. It's not true. I can't imagine anybody in the Bollywood field wanting to unnecessarily go out of the way to insult anybody from the armed forces or anything like that. But for the sake of a story, and from what I heard from
it was done in the Gunjan Saxena movie. It's been done here.
Wait. You don't let me speak. Can I say one more line without you interrupting me, sir? Thank you. Anil Kapoor verified the fact
one more line
about how the scene was done, what happened. So if the situation demands a person, because he's wearing the uniform, but suddenly he's a very concerned, stressed out father because his daughter has been kidnapped. As a result of that, if he has used the abusive language as a result of that, then I'm okay with it. If he has very casually done it, I'm not so okay with it. So if that is the case, I do not think he should be penalized.
Air Marshal Ahluwalia, do Air Force officers behave under stress? When in stress, do Air Force officers behave the way Anil Kapoor does? Or is that rather
I don't know.
poor
I haven't seen the film. But it is possible that in
I'm asking Air Marshal Ahluwalia, please. You will permit my other guest to speak, Nasir Abdullah. Air Marshal Ahluwalia.
Yes.
I'm sure you were in stress when you were flying in Kargil, when you were bombing Tiger Hill.
Gaurav, this freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of showing what you wish, I think gets too carried away by the entertainment industry. Freedom of expression, freedom of speech does not mean that you twist and turn facts. What you need to portray is actualism. What you need to portray is the truth. What is happening here is lots of nautanki and giving a wrong impression and a wrong image. The point is that you do not find a person in uniform with his shirt out using such abusive and foul language. That is not done, that is not expected. You may lose a very near and dear one. That happens regularly in the armed forces, but that does not mean you lose your decorum. You still have to maintain it, more so in public. What happens here is that a uniform...
Harshita Kashyap, this is lack of research or lack of interest.
Yes.
This
is not
Harshita Kashyap, if I may, far more sinister. This nautanki is by design to bring down the prestige of the uniform, to bring down the prestige of the Indian Air Force. And it's not just Anil Kapoor, it was also that Gunjan Saxena film. You know, once can be happenstance, twice. This is actually more than just a coincidence. It could well be enemy action.
No, see, being an actor, I would never be the part of any project which is like clearly insulting any caste, creed or profession and the most respected Indian Army and Indian Air Force. I would never be the part of that. But we are a story maker. We create certain things, certain program or certain emotions. Sometimes, like if I'm getting a character, I don't know anything about the character. Suppose if I'm playing Amrapali, I don't know how Amrapali used to dress. So I have to completely go through my director and the creative team. So we believe that it's already a researched one. So we don't think. Sometimes some actors, they definitely go through all things and they research and then they can question. But sometimes they don't.
No, Shiv,
so it could
Shiv, that be the case. Harshita, you've raised a very valid point. Yes, yeah. Harshita, you've raised a very valid point. And Shiv, this is what makes it even more sinister. So the research went into it to show an Air Commodore rank officer as a gali ka gunda. The way he speaks, the way he's dressed, his uniform, his lack of officer-like qualities. This is what Bollywood researches about Indian Air Force, Shiv.
You know, Gaurav, I wouldn't call it lack of research because, these are all highly empowered, organizations that conduct research. They are vetted at the very highest level. And given the, kind of atmosphere in the country where people have a sort of knee-jerk reaction to, so-called offensive content at every turn, this sort of thing usually goes through. I think there is, in general, a lack of respect for the armed forces. I'm not saying it's only restricted to Bollywood. It could be otherwise as well. But I think the fact that you generally don't expect too many repercussions, from the armed forces because, they can tweet saying, please remove these scenes, but nothing more than that will happen. We saw that with Gunjan Saxena, Gaurav. You and I covered it. The Air Force there, in my view at least, had even more of a case because there it wasn't just perception or morale or the other things that we're discussing here. There it was bare facts that were misrepresented and the Air Force still wasn't able to do anything to stop those scenes going. So I think the Air Force has it is understandable why the Air Force feels cheated, feels, attacked and feels offended. And the one thing I can tell filmmakers and actors listening out there is they may think that this is about, creative expression, and I believe that as well. But the Air Force is genuinely angry about this, and the Air Force is unitedly angry.
See,
that's the important point.
Gaurav,
it indeed is.
I think
it indeed is.
Gaurav,
And Air Marshal Ahluwalia, you may bomb Balakot. You may have the capabilities to bomb Balakot, but I think the Air Force has failed when it comes to these elements in Bollywood. Gunjan Saxena, and you were there in Kargil. Did the Indian Air Force discriminate against lady officers? Was Gunjan Saxena given less opportunities as is depicted in the film?
I must tell you, Gaurav, and you know better, being a prodigy of the armed forces, that we respect women to a great extent. Sometimes we overdo it, but respecting a woman is inbuilt into our discipline, into our ethos. So therefore, when that is being portrayed, and especially at a time when we are trying to give equal opportunities, like for instance, women flying fighter aircraft, we are giving them equal opportunities in every sphere, in every department, in every branch of the Air Force. And that kind of a picture or a movie that comes out,
Explain this to me, sir. Yes.
That it does not abode well.
It sort of hurts you, is what you. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Exactly. So Nasir Abdullah, please respond. So if Bollywood does its research, is it then by design that factual inaccuracies are pushed into the script? Is it design? Is this a very evil design? In Gunjan Saxena,
no, don't say evil. Yeah.
Nothing, she got equal opportunities. She got the respect. No, but if I may, Air Force asked the producers to remove it. It wasn't removed. Air Force is so powerless when it comes to this very powerful Bollywood.
I respect Mr. Ahluwalia's observation, and he's the man who's been on the front. He's been always there. But what I'm saying is, it is possible, please hear me out. It's possible that there was some amount of whatever harassment she experienced, etc., maybe, and they happen to capitalize on it. People in Bollywood do it to make a film more viable, more seeable for the box office, etc. So that is my feeling. So they do that, and sometimes they go maybe too far, and the Air Force or any other authority can freak out on it, and I understand that. But this is the problem. If to make a movie work, they need
You're even trying to justify it. I'm appalled.
To make it more interesting.
I'm appalled. You're even trying to. You're even trying to justify it, Nasir Abdullah.
There is no evil intention.
Perhaps Air Force would say chori par seena chori. You're trying to justify it. And Shiv, that is why the Air Force is so upset, and perhaps for good reason, because not only did they not remove the inaccuracies, they just added a disclaimer. Shiv, which means something like this or worse could benefit the enemy and bring down morale of own people. Shiv.
The reason...
Work of fiction. Can I write nonsense about you and say that's work of fiction?
I'll tell you something, Gaurav. The Gunjan Saxena episode, which in my view again is much more substantive than this one, has put the Air Force in a situation that it's going to take a long time to cure, because as you and I both reported, Gaurav, the Indian Air Force didn't really get a lot of institutional support from the MOD. They were fighting alone. They saw this as a battle for facts and for their honor. It was an issue of morale for them. They had to go to court. And, when all of that actually failed, the Air Force was left wondering, we're not here, talking about perceptions. We're talking about facts, about real living people. The person who's, on whom this film is based is herself on record to say, these are not the things that I, put into this movie. So the Air Force was furious and at the same time frustrated and helpless about not being able to correct those. And that's the reason why it has an amplified sense of how it views depictions of these kinds.
Harshita Kashyap, what is worse when an error is pointed out, Bollywood is unwilling to correct it. Even when it comes to our armed forces, we love and respect our armed forces. They bleed for us. They've bombed Balakot for us, and Bollywood would show Air Force in such poor light. I'm appalled, Harshita.
Well, they made Yuri.
Definitely. See, it's again it's a very big allegation if we put that we are doing it intentionally or they are doing it intentionally. But definitely we can see that there's a lack of research, definitely, because they are meant to be in a very certain way, even during pressure or very what do we say that they are very strong mentally, physically, emotionally they are very strong. So it's like it could be like they don't behave in that way. They don't abuse in certain way because they are like one of the most disciplined people. So we need to understand, if we're portraying a character, we have to understand the mindset, the level, the emotion which they actually have. So I would say it's not an intention, but maybe a lack of research. And it is a very big allegation that we are purposely doing it.
Okay.
Gaurav, I think it's very important.
So if Anil Kapoor says, I'm sorry if I've hurt someone, Air Marshal, is an apology enough, or should the Air Force insist on the removal of the scene?
These apologies, etc., just a continuation of Nautanki. I mean to say that that is part of the script. Nobody can deny it. Well, very good. But the script also has to contain realistic stories. You cannot fabricate something which is going to affect the morale, the courage, and the well-being of a service that is going to protect you. A service where a man, I have done it all my life, my best part of my life, 3 times a day with 20,000 kgs of thrust behind me, taking a risk. And I've done this day in and day out. And at the end of it, if somebody tries to tell me that my uniform is not okay because that is my alma mater, that is my discipline, that is my loyalty, that is my well-being. And if I cannot respect my uniform, I cannot fight a war. And in war, there is no second best. Next point I want to make is that the youngsters,
so is an apology enough, or should the scene be deleted? Air Marshal Ahluwalia, I have 30 seconds on the broadcast. I have 40 seconds on the broadcast. Is an apology enough, or should the scene be removed, and should the Air Force insist on it this time?
Air Force need not insist. There should be the moral obligation and responsibility of the entertainment industry to avoid such controversies. And if it does happen without the Air Force or anybody in the armed forces asking for it, they should remove it instead of giving, the huge sob story that, it had to be because it's part of the script. I mean, how many times have you heard that? It's part of the script, so we had to do it. Thank you very much, but no thank you.
Okay, I have an option, please. I think the scene
thank you very much, but no thank you.
Deleted.
Okay, I've run out of time on this part of the show, but the Air Force is not satisfied from what sources tell India Today, just with an apology. They want this scene to be removed. Will Bollywood do so? Will the producers and directors do so? Morally obliged to do so, says the Indian Air Force. But does that matter to Bollywood? We'll track that story, but that is all I have time for on the show this evening. Many thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.